everybody, I'm Eric the Counselor.
And I'm Des Perry.
This is a lifestyle show
About improving your mental health.
You ready?
Let's experience mental health.
All right, folks, what's going on? Welcome to another edition of Experience Mental Health, the podcast.
Yep.
I am your host, Eric the Counselor, your favorite counselor in the whole wide world, the person that you just trust more than anybody.
Look at that. Always
That's
going the
me.
extra mile.
Gotta
Going
take
the extra mile.
Yes, sir.
Your favorite counselor and everything. But I appreciate that. And I feel like you should always talk to yourself in that light. But I appreciate, what you bring. And then I am the co-host, Des Perry, your favorite co-host or host of the Experience Mental Health, your favorite podcaster. Yeah, and I'm just excited to be out here today. It's a beautiful day.
Yeah, it is, man. And I've been out today doing a little working out.
Oh,
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Had a couple clients this morning.
I will. For the people at home, we are actually in the same room today for a while. So we haven't recorded in the same room really since COVID. So this is our first time. I should have checked
your temperature. Well, I'm in your house. Maybe I should check my temperature.
Exactly. And you walked in here, no mask on, no nothing. Oh God, what's really going on? We risking it all for the people. But yeah, like I said, it feel good. I think it's a great day to do a little podcast today.
Yeah, man. So I just want to speak to the listeners and all the subscribers. We really appreciate you guys. And if you are watching the show and you like what you hear, go ahead and like the show, subscribe to it, and share it with anybody that you think might need to hear about mental health from some black guys, some people that look like you, because it's about the movement, folks. So share our show with all your friends and all your family. And we hope that you will be able to learn and grow and improve your own mental health by listening to us.
Oh, for sure. Because you're definitely going to be able to benefit from these great conversations and from the guests that we have on the show, because we got another great guest on today's show.
Who we got lined up today, Diz?
All right. So we have a very talented person on our show today, somebody that we just got acquainted with ourselves. She reached out to us, wanted to be a part of the mental health podcast, and I'm pretty sure we're gonna be a part of her show as well. But this is a mental health advocate and the founder of the multicultural faith-based mental health awareness network, Miss Adrienne Terry. We have her on the show today. How you doing?
How you doing?
Hello. Thank you for having me. How are you guys?
Oh, we're doing awesome. We're doing awesome today. We're so glad to be able to have you on the show and, give your perspective. So first of all, like I mentioned, you said you did. How did you find the Experience Mental Health podcast? How did you come upon our show?
Well, one of my friends in your group, and I came in and I was like, wow, I see two young black men out here, doing it for the mental health community, bringing that awareness to our people of color and especially men. And that's one of the things that I do. That's one of my agendas as a mental health advocate, is to get the education and the awareness out to our communities about the importance of mental health. So I definitely want to be a part of you guys. I definitely wanted to be on your show, you be on my show, and we just use all our platforms to, just push the agenda and let people know that it's okay. It's okay to get help. It's okay to have emotions. It's okay to have a mental health issue, because you know what? There's resources and help available.
Awesome.
So before we get into that, how's it going up there in, you said you're in Brooklyn?
Yes, I'm in Brooklyn, New York.
What's the vibe up in Brooklyn? Like, tell us about, with all the social climate and this political climate, like what's going on up in Brooklyn?
Well, unfortunately, there's a few hot spots in Brooklyn, and I happen to live in one of them where the rise in COVID numbers are going back up.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so that puts a damper on a lot of things. A lot of people are, going back into the quarantine mode. I am an essential worker, so I can't go into the quarantine mode. So I kind of use the weekends to quarantine. I don't go out unless I have to. But in terms of political, right now, we have a governor, our Governor Cuomo. If you ever watch him speak, he is not feeling Trump. He is not feeling the federal government. He is a gangster and a thug. We love him. He is so New York. We love our governor, Cuomo. He is not playing. So right now, him and Trump.
I was gonna say, that's one thing I do like about New York is that whole attitude. You know, it's a lot different than what I'm used to because we're Southerners. You know, we're from Tennessee, so you know, people talk about that Southern hospitality and everybody's nice and this and that. But when you go up to like places like New York, it's like the folks up there give it to you in the realest form. Like they give it to you they keep it 100.
Big difference.
You can't help it.
You know, so yeah.
Listen, we saw that the Twin Towers went down one day and they went back to work the next.
That's crazy.
They were back working the next day? No.
Yeah, it was back to work. Yeah.
Wow.
That would have shut a city down for months. The only thing that got us really good is COVID.
That COVID.
Oh yeah,
that COVID got us.
Well, it's a pleasure to have you on the show today.
Thank you.
Coming all the way up there from New York. I hadn't been to Brooklyn in a long time. Maybe like almost a decade now.
It changed. Yeah. Gentrification.
I heard it's gentrifying like crazy. Like really, like every other place, every other urban area. So let's get into our show today. We really appreciate you reaching out to us and with this very important topic as it relates to Black men and mental health. But like Des mentioned, I think before the show, a big part of the show is to hear your story. Tell us about how you got into this field, or where did all this passion come from for you as a Black woman to care for the mental health of Black men?
Well, you know, most people that get in this field have like family members or lived experience, and I have none of that. But what I do have is an extensive experience of working with people who are mentally ill. So this is I want to get Daz. I'm trying to see your name, Damon and Eric. I'm going to. This is going to give me
just call me Dez.
Yes, this is going to give me some brownie points as a New Yorker. Back in if you ever heard of 42nd Street, back in the days, back 42nd Street was like the place where a lot of what can I say, stores that sold all kinds of stuff, movies that showed all kinds of things, and and they had a homeless population on the street, and they wanted to bring in Disney store. They wanted to clean up Times Square area, 42nd Street. So they brought in a team, an outreach team of social workers to come in and actually walk on the street and engage the homeless people that lived on the street to get service. I was one of two people, was the first outreach team in Times Square. Back when it was gully. I was there engaging people on the street, mentally ill, drug addict, no medication, no nothing. And from there, my desire just grew. Before working in social service, I actually worked for an advertising agency. And it was just the boringest job I ever had, working for these rich clients, doing all this work. And I go home to my little tiny apartment, and they go home to their beautiful, So I wanted to, all that effort I want to do for somebody. And then my mother was a social worker too, so that did help, So that desire grew, and I remember I got promoted to a supervisor, and I was working with mentally ill homeless men, and hearing the stories, helping them get from point A to point Z, just helping them walk through that whole process of living on the streets to living and getting into an apartment was just amazing. And I just, it just grew, the desire and passion grew from there. But then I started to realize that some of them didn't have to go down this path. If only they knew about mental illness when they were younger, if only they had the resources, if only their parents knew, and mainly if only, and majority of them was from the Black community. So if only our Black communities knew more about mental health and was an awareness, we wouldn't be the ones who throw our children out in the street when they're not acting right, or putting our children on raw medication. Rarely did I see other nationalities in the shelter system or homeless. And if you did, it was because, maybe something other outside of not having the resources, maybe family rejection. But majority of the Black women and men who were homeless and mentally ill were homeless and mentally ill because of family rejection, lack of resources, lack of education, recidivism, drug abuse. And a lot of it could have been avoided if they had the education. So that's when I started to realize, you know what, if we can get to the next generation, maybe we can start eliminating this piece by piece. Maybe we can start breaking this barrier down. And I just want to share one story that was the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I had a young lady in my shelter. She was 23 and she was on drugs. And she was there. She had two different personalities. And one day she's a baby, one day she's a diva.
Oh, wow.
That was part of her psychosis.
Oh, wow.
So her family had been looking for her, African American. They called Department of Homeless Services, who runs the shelter system. And they found her and they contacted me, and the family was just so happy. So Department of Homeless Service gave them permission to come to the shelter. So, you know, they rolled up in there 10 people strong.
10 people.
They was looking for this girl. They loved this girl. The mother almost fainted when she saw her.
Yeah.
What was the problem? They didn't know what to do. They had this mentally ill daughter on drugs, in and out of hospital, in and out of hospital. No one ever took the time to educate them. They didn't know about mental illness. They didn't know anything, but they were trying so hard to maintain this girl, but they didn't know. So imagine if they did know.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine a community that did know and embraced the mental illness and stop, you know, thinking of it as what happens in the house, stay in the house.
Stay in, that's right.
You know, the stigmas around it. What happened is if us as a Black community is aware of this and say, you know what, there's resource for Ray Ray.
Yeah, yeah.
Let's get a therapist for Sandra. Let's send, maybe Susan need medication, instead of saying, oh, nothing wrong with her, she just crazy or something. You know, so that's where my passion grew, to say, we can stop this. If we can get to the next generation, we can hopefully stop this or help the ones that's already in it.
Yeah.
So what I ultimately want to do is like get a celebrity to co-sign, and you know, once you get a celebrity co-sign, that didn't work out. So you know, and I've had celebrities interested, but none of them really want to like go down the mental health, route. So what I did was, and also just to let everybody know, I'm also an evangelist. I'm an ordained minister, I'm an evangelist.
Mm-hmm.
And I start seeing this in church even more so. So I'm going through this on my job, right? Then I go to church and I'm seeing all this, and they're just like, oh, just pray for them. And I'm sitting here like, I need medication, I need therapy. You know, what you want to do after you pray for them, they go home and come in.
Right.
I hear that a lot. As a therapist, I hear that a lot.
You hear that, just pray.
Even today, someone came and told me that they were told to just pray about the issues that they were having.
Mm-hmm. But I mean,
and it does.
I feel like, you know, that I'm not saying that, because you definitely, you know, want to be able to pray about the issues they have, but that shouldn't be it.
Right.
You know, I don't think that should be it. And I think that's sometimes where people get, I guess, confused on, you know, the whole concept of praying.
Dad, let me share this. Let me share this. Let me give you all this gem. Put it in your laps.
All right, hit me with it. Hit me with it.
So I have an online mentor. Her name is Dr. Anita Phillips, and she is a therapist and, a doctor, and she actually works with the T.D. Jakes Ministry. And she said something so profound that in terms of prayer and mental health that I use it today. She said, and I'm going to quote her, she said, prayer is the weapon and therapy is the strategy.
Yeah.
And anytime you go to war, you need a strategy.
That's right.
Yeah.
Prayer is the weapon, therapy and treatment is a strategy. And put those together, and guess what? I'm a strategist.
Hey, I like that.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to start using that one right there.
Yeah, there you go. I tell you, I put it in your lap. There you go.
Keep it.
So, tell us about the work that you do at the what's the multicultural awareness, multicultural faith-based mental health. Yeah, tell us about
okay.
How are you reaching that? Because I'm hearing you say it's a generational thing. We got to get to the next generation. How is your advocacy reaching the next generation?
By educating the people now. Mm-hmm. So that group started out to reach the church, you know, to reach the bishops, the pastors, to break the stigma of mental health in their ministries. And what I found by reaching out, it's like I reach out to you guys, I found there are a lot of churches that have embraced it. There are a lot of churches who have put up different resources together and made mental health part of their ministry, but there's thousands that did not. And unfortunately, a lot of people are still suffering in the pews and suffering in silence. So that was the premise of the group, but it has grown now to community leaders, people with lived experience. I have a lot of therapists in there, doctors and therapists and counselors. It also is a form of resources for people to get education, to understand different, what psychosis is, what mental health is, what is PTSD, what is schizophrenia. But it's also a resource if somebody needs a therapist or a counselor, they can put that in a group, and there's counselors from around the world in that group. There's therapists from around the world. So if you know somebody in California who needs a therapist, you can put it, do anybody know a therapist in California? That person is already connected. I've connected so many people with so many. And I'm telling you guys, with the COVID, oh my.
What's going on? What are you seeing?
So this group is 3 years old. So I'm going to tell you, a person talking about mental health, so in reference to church or, you know, the community, you're not the most popular person, you know, but it's my passion. Huh?
I said, that's just kind of weird to me. I understand it, but yeah, go ahead with what you're saying. But I'm just saying, it just in this day and age, it just seems that churches would have evolved to the point to where you talk about mental health from the pulpit.
Eric, they're doing it now. And unfortunately, like I said 3 years ago, it's like, okay, mental health. Now with this COVID, if I could tell you how many bishops and people called me like for counseling and help and resources, you know, the COVID has caused the church to look at mental health from another different angle now, because not only is it not affecting their members, it's affecting the leaders.
Mm-hmm. It's affecting who?
So the leaders, leaders, spiritual leaders. So even though the group was set up 3 years ago, it was set up for a time such as this. And all the other people who have been doing this in ministry, in churches, sitting down, you know, just sitting there, not being used. This is the time now that they're raising up and giving back to the community, back to their churches, and helping guide people understand mental health now. And a lot of leaders are conforming and saying, you know what, you're right, we do need help.
Yeah.
You know.
And how are you, like, how as a minister, how do you balance the whole mental health with the word of God, or just the whole idea that if you need a counselor, then I've heard something this bad. If you need a counselor, you don't trust God, or you don't have faith if you go and talk to a counselor. How do you balance that? Like, how do you help people? Because I know our listeners.
So you heard people say that?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Oh, wow. I've heard them say that too.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
How do you help people? Because again, I think our listeners are probably some of those people who might actually have been indoctrinated to that belief. How do you overcome that?
Well, I have a formula.
Got the formula and everything.
The formula of a Christian therapist.
Got the formula. Okay.
I got the formula. Medication suppresses, therapy uproots, and prayer delivers.
Okay. So
let me break that down.
Therapy uproots.
So medication, if you're on medication, let's say you're on medication. Medication suppresses, right?
Right, absolutely.
So while you're in that suppression, at that stage of suppression, now let me get to the root. And that's therapy. What is the root? What childhood trauma happened? What happened in your life to get you to where you are now? Let's get to those roots and start to dig up those roots through therapy. And now, in the third thing is prayer. Now let's pray for deliverance. So we got to suppress these things while we're working on it, right? We're working on it by now tearing up the roots, finding the roots. What is childhood molestation? Was it domestic violence? Was it abuse? What was it? Where does drug addiction come from? Therapy is helping find those roots, understanding it, processing it, right? And getting them through that, and then uprooting those things. And then prayer brings about deliverance. And that's what a Christian therapist does.
I just think a person, and I'm a trained Christian therapist. I went to Liberty University. I'm not so proud that I went to that school right now, but I did. And I learned how to incorporate the word of God into therapy. And it's not for everybody, and there's different ways to do that. But I think the struggle sometimes is, some people can't get to step 3 because they, are just so worried that how am I going to go to heaven if I need a counselor? Like, this is a real issue, and the formula is right. You don't necessarily, I don't think you don't always need to be suppressed. I don't think you always need medication. Some people are doing just fine. It just depends on the level of the mental health issue that you have. Medication is important. Trust me, I've been there. I understand that. But you're right. You got to get to the root of it, and then you can add the prayer and other things to help. But I really just think sometimes people get caught up in their religious indoctrination, and they feel like, I can't go see a counselor, which to me, it just doesn't make sense, because I think God is the best of counselors.
That's what I was getting ready to say. The word of God said he's a what?
Yeah.
The greatest counselor, right?
Yeah.
And the Bible also says there's wisdom among counselors, right?
Yes, absolutely. There's safety among counselors.
Safety among counselors.
Safety
But
among abundance of counselors.
safety,
yes.
Amen. Wow, I got that wrong.
But perfect.
Jesus is a counselor. You got to understand.
Right.
Yeah.
If we have these gifts, Eric, counseling is a gift, right?
Yeah.
Who you think gave us a gift of listening to people?
Yeah.
Who gives gifts, right?
I tell people all the time, God made me just the same way he made the doctor you go and see.
Yep.
Or the pilot or any other person that you trust in your life. God made counselors the same way.
Yeah. And I think that ultimately that if you have any type of issues or things that you're dealing with or you're trying to work through, like his word, the Bible, is the best place to get a lot of those answers to help you through, so like you mentioned, prayer is the weapon, and then you incorporate that in with the therapy and get that strategy to help you overcome whatever it is that the issue that you're dealing with, but yeah, the word
one
about
thing. Let me throw this out here. What about those who are just, we're speaking to a certain group of people who believe what we believe. What about the people who don't believe this at all? Like, there's, they don't believe in
or
God,
maybe people that don't believe in God. Yeah.
The scriptures, it's just another book. Like, how
do you reach those people?
Have you ever dealt with that?
Well, I haven't. People who really don't believe in God. Normally, honestly, when people who have been tormented and suffered so much, either mentally or physically, normally they start to believe that, there has to be something.
Yeah.
So there has to be something.
That question, I'm thinking, because sometimes this is kind of in that line of thinking. Sometimes I have clients who come and tell me that they have lost their faith.
Yes.
As they've struggled with the illness, and it's like God can't exist. There cannot be anything. And so that in itself presents a challenge, especially in therapy, when you're trying to help a person reconnect with the thing that, in my opinion, is a stabilizer or something that keeps you grounded as a person, which is your belief in a higher power. What happens when that goes away? And now you find yourself in counseling, wrestling with what you're wrestling with, and you've lost your faith. So that's just kind of the line of thinking that I'm thinking about right now. Can we talk a little bit about, there's some other things that we wanted to ask you about just to see what you think. And this is kind of going a little bit left maybe, but let's talk a little bit about generational trauma. And before the show, we were talking about the Willie Lynch letter, and, let's just kind of have that discussion, because again, our audience, these are the discussions that they're having anyways. And so let's talk a little bit about generational trauma. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, we people of color, how we became Americans, right? Our ancestors were abducted, kidnapped from Africa, right? Brought over here in this country, and gone through the whole process of the trauma of slavery, right? The trauma of slavery. They didn't abduct, they didn't kidnap people who were animals. They kidnapped people who had families, who had beliefs. They kidnapped people who were well versed in their education, new system. People of African descent were not 8, right? So they came here, and the level of trauma they had to face of being whipped, sold, raped, beaten, slaved. And then now we have the when slaves are freed, like so-called freed, right, in 1865, now we have this whole Jim Crow law, right? So not only did we just come out of a traumatic situation, now we're free, but now we have all these restrictions. We have the entire federal government saying we can't vote, we can't have a home, we can't own nothing, right? This put us back into the trauma of almost slavery, but we're now being paid to do something that we were not being paid to do, but we don't have any other rights. That's a trauma, self-esteem. Now let's go forward now. Oh, I'm sorry, I went ahead of myself. Let's go back to the Willie Lynch letter. Some people say the letter is not true. Some people say the letter is, but I believe that this particular the methods or the thoughts of the methods were something that was used to break Black people. Why? Because when it kidnapped us from Africa, you got to understand, even in Africa today, the Black man is esteemed. The Black man is the head of the family. The Black woman looks to the Black man, right? So now you kidnap them, bring them to this country, and now you want the Black woman to bow down to the white man. Right. That's not going to happen, right? When we come from a culture where our Black men are esteemed as kings, right? So the white man knew that. He knew that. So he knew what he had to do was to break down the Black man in the eyes of, and this is going to go really to a little way.
No, it's cool.
Yeah, no,
the Black man.
We listening.
They had to break the Black man down in our eyes, because that's the only way they would control Black women is to break them down. And one of the reasons why they wanted to break down the Black woman, because the Black woman was the one who produced the children and raised the children. So if you break down the Black man, she can't have faith in the Black man. She don't feel protected, and now she's going to raise her children like that. Yeah, she's going to raise her sons to be weak, right? She's going to raise her son because she don't want her Black sons to end up. That she don't want him to exhibit any strength, because if he exhibit any strength, he's going to be put on 2 horses, tarred and feathered, and the horses pull him apart, and then or beaten in front of him, or emasculated in some kind of way in front of someone else. Mm. So now the woman, the girl, she has to raise the girl to be stronger now, because she knows the woman the young girl would have to take the lead and be the strong one, right? Yeah. Because she's going to have to fend for herself in life, because you can't depend on the Black man. And that's what was done back with the Willie Lynch. And he even said that it will last, if we do this right, it will last for 300 years. Yeah. 300 years ended in 2012. So that means the whole thing was to get the Black woman in a place where she can't trust and look up to the Black man and feel safe by him, raise her offsprings, right? To raise men that don't exhibit strength, because if they exhibit strength, they'll be beaten and demasculated, right? But raise up Black women. Now let's move a little bit further. To break this down now. Come on now, break it down. We're going through civil rights, right? We're going through civil rights. We're going through civil rights, and now we have the welfare system. This is in the 70s. Mm-hmm. So now the Black man, right, can't take care of the family, right? And now the Black woman has to continue to step up in the role to take care of the family. The Black man has already been traumatized, emasculated, right? And felt like he can't give and he can't do and contribute to be a real man, because the real man was beaten down in front of all his family, right? So the whole pride, the whole looking up to the Black man, that has been stolen away years ago. Now we're moving forward to the 70s. The 70s now we have we start to have a flux of single Black women, because mind you, in the 30s, 40s, and 50s, Black families flourished. Black men still was with their families, but there was a break somewhere. And now a lot of single women households start to come up in the late 60s and early 70s. welfare said, we'll take care of you. We'll take care of you and your children. We'll give you money for rent, money for food, and clothes. But guess what? If we take care of you, that Black man cannot be in the house.
Gotta go.
If we find him in the household, we will cut your benefits off. Another way of traumatizing our men, traumatizing our families.
Can you fast forward to today? Like,
okay,
I'm totally with you. Really,
all right, I just wanted to go on down the list.
You got to give them the history. And just for those who may not be familiar with the Willie Lynch letter, it's a letter that is supposed to be written hundreds of years ago. And basically what she has said is how to keep Black people enslaved for the next hundreds of years. And it's played out. We're 300 years into it. And a lot of what you said today, I believe, is showing up today. I believe it's showing up. We've done a couple shows about the relationships between Black men and Black women.
Right.
And it goes all the way back to this particular letter, or the things that the letter talk about. Let's tear down the Black family. Let's have the Black woman to know that she can't rely on the Black man, and let's just go from there, right? And so here we are today. Do you think these things are? I mean, I don't want. It's a rhetorical question, but I'm going to ask you anyways. Do you think that this is still playing out today when we're talking about the psychological impact, basically
trauma?
We're talking about the psychological impact of slavery and of that trauma.
It is. It's showing up in our economics, in our social, and our behavior. So economically, the trauma of not being able to purchase homes like white people, have the jobs get the same pay as white people. Then socially, our physical health has been also traumatized. We're the ones with the highest rate of high diabetes, high blood pressure, all type of sicknesses because of the stress and the trauma of generations. You got to understand that these things are embedded in our DNA.
Absolutely.
Right? This trauma is embedded in, and then it comes out and it manifests itself in generations in different ways. So, you had the crack generation, the drug abuse, right? You had, a lot of drug abuse, and we have a high rate of Black men being incarcerated. Do you know five times more Black men are incarcerated than any other race? Incarceration. You have a lot of Black men we still have where they got 50 baby mamas, right? They don't want to commit to one because of the whole, that's another thing.
That's a whole nother thing.
Yeah,
that's a whole nother thing.
We can really dive
That's another show.
But then also the self-esteem and post-traumatic stress syndrome. We have so many people that have post-traumatic stress syndrome that don't even know why. And I'm gonna tell you, I'm one of them as a Black woman. I don't feel safe when I walk the street. I don't feel safe in society as a Black woman. Did I do something to deserve it? No, I don't, because I know the history of how other races, especially white people, feel about Black people, Black women, especially other women of race. So I don't feel safe. I'm suffering from what would happen to my ancestors, to my grandmother, to my mother. So I have that PTSD as a Black woman. I also have PTSD as a Black woman with Black men. How do we, do Black men really like Black women?
We do.
We're the lowest of the total. They rather go to other races and talk about us and laugh about us, right? And then also with Black men with PTSD, the lack of education, the lack of jobs, having to sell drugs just to survive, because guess what? They may try to get a job, but because the color that they wear, they walk in the door and they're already stigmatized, right? So there's no chance for them. And don't get 1 year in jail, right? You get 1 year in jail, that's it. Nobody want to hire you. You a statistic. It's just, and it plays out in our emotional trauma. It plays out in our psychological trauma. It plays out over and over and over again. Even in the younger generation, you can now see it's getting to the point where our younger people are committing suicide at 10 years old now.
Oh, really young.
All this is DNA stuff embedded in us. And people will say, well, what's the solution?
Yeah, because that's what I'm going to ask you. Like, how do we turn?
What is the solution?
Right.
The solution is understanding our history.
Yeah.
The solution is knowing where we come from and now trying to change where we're going through awareness, through education, through help, even mental health, knowing that, me, I'm a Black woman. I have a fear sometimes of walking the streets. Why? Because I feel that as a Black woman, I'm being looked down on, I'm being judged and everything. Well, guess what? I have to change that.
Yeah.
So I changed that through talking about it. I changed that through, getting my self-esteem up by getting education. My father always told me, get education. Nobody can take, it could take a lot from you, but not your education. So I changed that by bettering myself to make myself feel like it's not about what they think, but a lot of people have not gotten there. And as a result, we have our young Black women who are out here just showing, they feel like they got to show their body just to get attention.
Yeah.
They got to do things just to get attention. We got young Black men out here, especially in Brooklyn, that feel like a superstar when they got handcuffs on.
Wow.
Like, you going to jail, and you're like, I feel like a superstar. I killed 5 dudes, niggas they call them. But, nothing. For nothing. Because, and these are the forced gratifications that they're feeling. They're spending $500 on a pair of sneakers, right?
Right.
They're spending
goodness.
$2,000, just something to validate, just something to make them feel like they're somebody. But they are. But you see how the trauma and the generational trauma just warps everything to make them feel some kind of wealth. They got to do something good about themselves. They got to do something outside of themselves, right? Either through violence, either through materialism, even through sex, even through, just to feel like they are somebody.
Yeah.
Look at our rappers. I look at somebody like Cardi B, and I'm telling you, I like Cardi B, but I don't like what the music.
Do you like the WAP song though?
No, I don't like the WAP song. But she said something so profound. She said, but what about, she said, I got it. In order to make it, I'm not gonna quote her, I'm gonna say it in my way. In order to make it out here, you gotta sing songs like that. She said, because you'll play the girls who sing about, who dress nice and sing about, who really got rap skills and they really out here rapping. You're not paying attention to them. They're not twerking and talking about WAP, but they got real skills, but you're not paying attention to them. She said, so I gotta come out here and WAP it to make money and to be known. And that's sad.
Yeah.
I can't be mad at her for that strategy,
Yeah.
I can't be mad about
That's
it.
it. So now we got a whole generation of girls growing up who think that the only way they're somebody is because they're WAP.
Yep, exactly. Somebody's gonna love them because of that. They gotta show, or they gotta do something sexual.
And let me say this: unfortunately, Cardi B has found out that even that's not going to keep somebody.
Right, she getting a divorce.
Because how she says, "Let me show you how I don't cook, I don't clean. Let me show you how I got this ring."
Mm-hmm.
Well, I guess that wasn't
the ring.
Ring is
gone. Ring gone.
I don't know.
Ring gone. Ring gone.
We have a fast-paced show. This is one of those conversations that could go on and on and on. But we do appreciate you sharing the knowledge that you do have. Before, I do want to know about your show, though. You got this show that's on Roku. It's all on the Oasis television network. Like, tell us about your show.
Well, the show is called Shelly Way Talk Show. And Shelly Way, you would think, well, who's Shelly? Shelly is
I'm like, where's the Shelly coming in at?
Oh, well, Shelly is a woman, a fictional name to a real character of a woman who was called to be a minister, an evangelist years ago, and she did not want to do it. She thought she wasn't good enough. She thought she couldn't attain enough, and she just did not want to live that way, that lifestyle. Yeah. And she ran from that call for many years, and in the running, she went into it. I'm going to write a book about it. She got into a lot of things that she shouldn't have been into. She was trying to go her way until she finally realized over years that it wasn't Shelly's way, it was God's way. Yeah. And she decided to do it God's way. Well, so the theme of my talk show is Shelly's Way, but it's going to be, are you going to do it Shelly's way, or are you going to do it God's way? Yeah. Because Shelly's way is not going to get you that far. Not going to get you that far. That is but awesome. It's a talk show about it's Christian based, right? But it's not going to be overpowering. I'm going to have, secular Christian, definitely mental health months, awareness months, July, and all those months, I'm going to have mental health specialists on, people like yourself, to come on and talk about what you do in the field of mental health. So that's the biggest part of it. But another part is showcasing a lot of people, a lot of products, a lot of ministries. I'm going to have testimonials and conversations and stuff like that. So it's going to be fun. It's a really upbeat show. You know, people tell me I look like Oprah. So I'm like, okay.
Okay, Oprah.
Okay, wait. Okay, wait.
I ain't never seen Oprah with the
Okay.
She just turned into Oprah.
You'll get a car. You
really just turned into Oprah right there.
So I get glasses. I usually wear big glasses. So I said, wow, you know, Oprah.
Right, that's crazy.
Wow, she looks like she
Transformed.
Wow. So listen, we gotta go. We are out of time. We definitely appreciate you spending some time with us, sharing your knowledge and your personality, your spirit. I can tell that you are probably one of those people that just draws people to you. People just come to you. And we appreciate you reaching out to us. So if you are still watching this show, what are you doing? If you haven't subscribed yet, I mean, you should already have been subscribed by now.
Been subscribed.
If you're still watching this, like it, share it, tell everybody about it. Even go and watch Shelly's Shelly's
Way
talk show and tell us what you think about it.
Yeah.
Yes, what you got, man?
First Saturday.
I think ultimately, I'm just appreciative once again, Adrienne, for you coming on in the biggest gym. Look, I done wrote it down. Look, prayer is the weapon. Therapy is the strategy. So, I think, keeping that in mind.
Dr. Anita Phillips.
Oh, yeah. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I'm saying. Like keeping all that stuff in mind and helping better ourselves, mentally. I think that's what the show's about. And look, Adrienne definitely came through and hit us with a few gems. And so again, we're appreciative of you coming out and dropping those on us.
Well, folks, that's going to be our time for today. Adrienne, thank you so much. Whatever you're doing, wherever you are, make sure to make it a great day, folks. Take care. We'll see you next time.
Peace. Hey, guys, if you really enjoyed that episode, make sure that you like and comment, as well as subscribe to the Experience Mental Health Podcast, because this is the #1 mental health podcast in the nation.